Oh, hi class, sorry about that. This is video for lesson 57, and I told you keep track of my mistakes. This is a small one. Oh, sorry about the music. I did change it from Christmas to regular season music. Okay, this lesson is called mixed number problems. I told you lesson 56 was called mixed number problems. They're very similar. Lesson 56 was actually equations with mixed numbers. Lesson 57 is called mixed number problems. Okay, let the music stop here. Okay, so this is a review of problems that I like to call them 2 out of 3 problems, where it's a simple algebra problem. They give you a word problem. They want you to convert it to numbers, and it's an equation that involves 3 numerals or numbers, and 1 is missing, and they alternate which number they have you look for, and your job is to translate the word problem into a math problem. And sometimes it gets tricky because they're sometimes having you look for the answer or sometimes one of the factors, and so that's where it can get a little bit confusing. So first I want to review that type of problem, how we translate it, then I'm going to show you the slight variation here with mixed numbers. It's not too bad. So here I have a sample of the 2 out of 3 problem where they had you look for a decimal part of a number, or at least it involved decimals. And they would have worded it something like this. I actually have 3 of them, and I'll go through how you would translate it for each of the possible missing numbers, the 2 factors and the answer. So looking at number 1, it would read 5/10 of what number is 36. Now I just want to stop for a second and explain something. You notice sometimes in these problems they'll actually write out the number 5, they'll write the number 5/10 as an actual decimal number like so, and other times they'll write it in words. And what pattern you're going to see is that oftentimes, or all the time, when they start a word problem, the sentence always begins with the number written out in words, because you can't really start a sentence with a number. So you're never going to see something like this, 0.5 of what number, etc. Because a sentence, to be correct grammatically, never starts with an actual written number. You have to write it out in words. So I hope that made sense. I was planning on throwing that in. I just thought I'd add it. Okay, so looking at number 1, 5/10 of what number is 36? So reading 5/10 by now, you should know, I just gave you a hint of this, that 5/10 written in numbers is 0.5. Of translates to multiplication. What number is simply the variable. You can write W or any variable you want. 5/10 of what number is equals. Oh, I wrote that already, sorry. And then obviously our answer there, 36. That's how I translate number 1. Number 2, 5/10, again, 0.5 of is multiplication. The number 72 is equals. What number is W? This is the hardest part I find, is getting from the word problem to the math problem. Once you get there, most of you can figure out how to solve it. It's your same old rules for algebra equations. Number 3, what decimal part? Okay, so now we're looking for the decimal, and we're going to start with the letter W, the variable W. Of multiplication, 72, that's equals 36. So the hardest part of this type of problem is converting from the word problem to the math problem. In this lesson, they are not looking for decimals or whole numbers. They're using mixed numbers. And so it's just a slight variation. Oops. All right, so I'm going to convert my 3 problems that I wrote here to problems. I'm going to, just like I used the same 3 values in each of these 3 problems, I'm going to do the same. But we're going to use mixed numbers. So let's see. I'm going to look at number 1. 5/10 of what number is It's going to become, I'm actually using, honestly, I'm using the example in the book. So if you get confused and you want to check out your book, this is going to be a review. 2 1/2 of what number is 7 1/3? And then going to problem 2. Again, 2 1/2. You can see that's going to be a mixed number. 2 1/2 of and then lastly, instead of asking what decimal part, for mixed numbers, they're going to say what fraction. What fraction? Okay. So let's see. Let's erase that. Okay. What fraction of 7 1/3 is do I have that backwards? Well, let's hope I got that correct. Okay, looking at number 1, they're going to give you something that looks like this. 2 1/2 of what number is 7 1/3? Let's convert that to a math problem. Hopefully right off the bat you see 2 1/2 and you recognize that to be just the mixed number 2 1/2. Of what number equals 7 1/3? Right, going to number 2. So here they're looking for, we'll call it factor number 2. This is factor number 1, factor number 2, and the answer. So in problem number 2, they're looking for the answer. You can see that because it ends with is what number, equals what number. And then converting the rest of this word problem, 2 1/2 of 2 14/15 is what number? So in problem number 2, the way they've worded it, they're looking for the answer. In problem number 3, what fraction of, so we're looking for a mixed number there, of 2 14/15 is 7 1/3. All right, this is the toughest part, I feel. Part number 2, if you look at each problem, you're going to have to convert those mixed numbers, just like we did in lesson 56, to improper fractions. Once you get to that point, this is the same as lesson 56. It's just solving an algebra problem using the multiplication and division rules for equations. And when I say that multiplication and division rules for equations, I just mean when you multiply one side of the equation by a number, you must do it to the other side. Or when you divide one side of an equation by a certain number, you must do it to the other side. That's what the multiplication and division rules for equations. That's what I mean when I say that. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and solve these. 2 1/2. I'm going to erase 7 1/3. I'm going to erase this whole thing. 2 1/2 times what number is 7 1/3? Give myself some more room. Because these are so similar to problems you've already done, hopefully you'll catch on quickly. Converting 2 1/2 to an improper fraction is whole number times denominator, that's 4, plus numerator, that's 5, over same denominator 2, times what number equals 7 1/3. Whole number times denominator is 21, plus numerator, that's 22, over same denominator. One thing I want to mention is, in standard algebra equations, we always have what we call the coefficient right next to the number that we're looking for. We don't typically have that multiplication symbol in between. But truthfully, this and this are identical, and you would solve them exactly the same way. So don't get confused because you have this here, and in some of the algebra problems, typically you're used to seeing something like this, 5x equals 25. We don't write 5 times x or 5 times x, okay? We just have the coefficient right next to the variable. So in these 2 out of 3 problems, when you write your multiplication symbol here, you're going to solve it exactly the same way as you would, for example, 5x equals 25. So I don't want you to get confused because suddenly, you've written a multiplication symbol and now you're confused. What do I do with that? So going back to this problem, it's still 5/2 times w. I could write it that way if it makes it simpler. Either way, I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of 5/2 so that I can cancel these. Now I have success. I have my I have my variable by itself on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, can I do any canceling? I cannot cancel. I have 44 over 15. That's multiplying the numerators on top and the denominators on the bottom. Right, and that's how I would solve that type of problem. Let's try. Let's try looking for the answer. That was, let's say they say, what fraction, I'm writing fast, it's getting sloppy. What fraction of, let's say 7 1/3, what fraction of, I'm sorry, what fraction of 2 14/15, is 7 1/3? If you see this type of problem, what fraction of, you're looking for a mixed number. So you'll start right off with your W. What fraction of 2 14/15 is 7 1/3? So same thing, we're just happy to we're looking for factor number 1. All right, so I'm going to convert 2 14/15 to an improper fraction. W times 2 times 15 is 30, plus 14 is 44, over same denominator, looking familiar, equals 7 1/3. We've already converted that in the last problem. That was 22 over 3. So here I want to get rid of 44 over 15 on the left-hand side. The way I do that is I multiply by its reciprocal. Again, I can take out that multiplication symbol right here if I want. Times 15 over 44. All right, so these cancel, and I'm left with just W. Right, moving on over here, W equals, now I can cancel some things here on my right-hand side. As you can see, 22, this is going to be 22 over 2, and those will cancel. This is 5 times 3, so those cancel, and I am left with 5 over 2. If I want to simplify that all the way, that's 2 1/2. That's my answer there. All right. The only other type we've worked out looking for each of the factors. We've converted the word problems to number problems. We've worked out looking for factor number 2 and factor number 1. The only other type of problem they'll give you is, it would look like, it would say 2, I'm sorry, write that in words. I just told you it has to start off with words. 2 1/2 of 2 and 14/15 is what number? I'm going to scribble that out so I'm going fast there. All right, sorry for the sloppiness. All right, this is the last type of problem you may have to solve in the practice. And so converting that 2 1/2 of 2 and 14/15 equals what number? It's our variable, W. So now we have similar problem, but now we're looking for the answer and not the factors. Now this is just a matter of making these into improper fractions. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5, over same denominator, times 2 times 15 is 30, plus numerator, that's 44, over same denominator, equals what number? And again, this is pretty much the same as what we just did. This is going to cancel. And we're left with 22 there. This is going to cancel. I'm left with 3 on the bottom. My answer is 22 over 3. If I were to simplify that all the way and convert this back to a mixed number, 3 goes into 22 7 times with 1 left over, and that's how you convert an improper fraction back to a mixed number. That's pretty much what they usually ask for. If you leave it as an improper fraction, that's okay. But if you want to get a little practice, go ahead and make it back into a mixed number. That's what this lesson entails. Okay? Signing off.